Well, greetings everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the Master of Kung Fu retrospective, his Bronze Age series. We're going through the 111 issues, I guess, from Special Marvel Edition 15 to Master of Kung Fu 125. And I am joined again by the illustrious Dreamboat, Comic Mag Musings, Bill Miller. How are you, Bill?
Guilty on all accounts, and I'm doing well, sir. Thank you. I appreciate you having me back. I love doing live streams with you, and there's certainly nothing more exciting than talking about this initial series or run of Shang-Chi, Master of Kung Fu. Always good.
Yeah, I agree. It's so fun, I think, to look back at a series like this, because I don't know if we mentioned this, Bill, but you read a lot of modern comics, right?
Yeah, definitely a lot more than you do.
Right, which is like none. Right.
Yeah.
So, and even back in the Bronze Age, I found these especially wordy, very text intensive. There's action throughout, but there's a lot of dialogue, a lot of explanatory parts of the comic. It's not a 5-minute read. These are involved comics, to be sure.
They really are. Yeah. If you're looking to breeze through it, it may be something you want to come back to after reading something else and getting that out of your system. But a strong value proposition, as were most of the comics back then. Even if they were poor, at least you got a lot of good, poor material for your money. And it's funny because I read a lot of the EC comics as well. Mm-hmm. And it's such a stark contrast between the amount of material on a Golden Age comic book versus a modern comic book. It's startling how different they are. How quickly you can buzz through a modern comic book versus really bronze and back.
Yeah. I mean, I was reading, I forgot what it was, but I got some modern stuff from J Hood Creative when I won his contest some months back. And I thought it was pretty good stuff, by the way. I'm not knocking it. But honestly, Bill, I'm a fast reader. I'll grant you that, right? But 5 minutes is what it took me to go through the comic. And that's
all right.
Appreciation in the art and a whole bit, not really just, I wasn't cranking it, And then you're right, the Golden Ages also were more pages, mostly 64 pages, I think. But even the Bronze Age ones, it takes me 15, 20 minutes,
right,
to sort of get through it. So
yeah, I prefer the older stuff. There's a lot of good new material out there, but a lot of it isn't very good, and I'm just frank about that. But even the ones that are good, they're usually quick reads, so I'll take that as an opportunity to read through again or search for subtext that maybe I may have missed the first time. Find out if there's a way that I can perceive whatever message may or may not be in there through some sort of different type of lens. It gives me an opportunity to create different reading experiences because of the succinctness of the material.
Well, that's a very progressive perspective there, because
it beats the alternative.
Right. Just don't hit your head against the wall just because you bought a comic for $5 and it's 5 minutes and it's gone, right?
That's right.
I've been accused on Graders Notes many times of looking too far into the subtext and the subliminal messages in comics. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that. Trust me.
Right. And that's probably in most cases, you're seeing ghosts, right? You're seeing things that aren't there, that were never originally intended. But who's to say they're any less valid than anyone else's interpretation? Right. So that's the fun, right? That's what's so great about writing. Even if you perceive something different than the writer's original intention, there's nothing to say that your perception is any less valid than the writer's. Yeah. That's what's great about literature.
That's right. I mean, you're right. That it can't be, since it's an opinion, it really can't be invalidated. It could be criticized. It could expand upon it, I suppose. But you can't say I didn't think I saw something. Right.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Before we get started, Bill, let's get into this great chat. And a lot of our buddies and the loyal followers are both our channels are in here. By the way,
and Jackson as well.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, And we have Jackson Roy Kirk, who we know loves us to death, but he gives us a hard time, and we would have it no other way. By the way, Comic Mag Musings link is below. If for whatever reason you're new and you haven't subscribed to Bill, trust me, if he just went again out with his wife into the middle of the desert, risking life and limb to unbox another slab. So
only because Roger demanded it be another graded book.
I say nothing, right? It was a great comic that one of my favorite stories is that Hulk 182. So I'm sure you've read it online.
I can't read it. It's encapsulated in this plastic prison, Roger.
I know. Hey, listen, you can stick a screwdriver in the bottom, slip it out, and put it right back in there. Nobody will be the wiser. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. But let's get into and let's chat out this chat because you and I are both very community minded, and we love our chat superstars, and we are full of it today. That didn't come out right, but
too easy. Yeah, too easy.
The chat is full of superstars. Wow. Okay. We have Mark Knapp, my moderator extraordinaire. I had emailed him earlier and said, "Hey, I'm going to be around. If you can, come by and moderate because he is the best in the business. He puts those links in, they're lickety split." Here's a gentleman that I saw on when I put it on Instagram. B. Ramey. Is that Brian? That's not Brian Ramey, I don't think. But welcome. Good to see you here. And of course, the aforementioned New Orleans guy that we both love and adore, Jackson Roy Kirk. What does he say here? Hey, weirdo, never watched a Trek episode, indeed.
Yeah, so the Jackson Roy Kirk has, within the last few days, released about 4 different Star Trek related videos. So if you haven't checked out his channel, please do so. The Jackson Roy Kirk. Got a lot of videos, a lot of great content up there. But I mentioned in one of them today that I've never seen any episode of any Star Trek series, which is true. And so that's where that retort came from.
Wow. Well, Bill, that's one you're never going to. I mean, he is one of the biggest Star Trek. Obviously, if you research his name, you can tell he's a big Star Trek fan.
Well, so. I work in the IT industry, so I've gotten a lot of flack over the years for that.
Yeah, I can imagine. We got the Simply Incredible podcast. How you doing, D? Really cool guy. His channel goes from I saw his channel from way back when he used to do a podcast with the other gentleman. I forgot his name. Talking about chat superstars, James Gallegos from the neighboring state of New Mexico. Just a little podcast. How you doing, Cookie? Luis Ramirez 504. Again, he's in a lot of our chats. Unruly Simeon, speaking of a chat superstar. This man, I tell you, this man must have like 20 computers set up because every chat I've ever seen, he's in there.
He is. He's in a lot of them. And always adding good content to the chats.
Yeah, and he's also a member of our Graders Notes crew and incredibly knowledgeable. Especially when it comes to Kirby and those that era. Boy, he's got a great.
The last one I saw him on with you guys was the science fiction anthology book that you did.
Yeah. He's going to be on in a couple of weeks too because I'll be moving, so he's going to probably take my place in a couple of weeks here.
Cool.
Let's see. K Titus talking about supportive member all the way from Japan. This is a man who never sleeps. I mean, I tell you that he's on 3 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon. He's there. I don't know how he does it.
Samurai Ken.
Rayman the Silencer Man, of course, my buddy from Massachusetts. One of the best human beings on this planet who I love dearly. Let's see who else is up in here. No Star Trek. Gretzky, how you doing, Mr. Gretzky? How you doing, buddy? And my friend, my host from the No Faces chat, Bubs Comics, says meta mullet. I have to get a haircut. Yes, I do. So he got me on that one. So it's great to see you all here. This will probably go a little quicker than the first one because we went through a lot of backstory and so forth.
Right.
So bear with us, and we will get into the rest of the retrospective. We're going to go from 64 to 125, which is a little more than what we did the first part, but we'll try to go through it a little quicker here.
And Jackson's comment, I have to acknowledge, it says dreamboat, more like nightmare. But either way, he's dreaming about me, and that's the important part. So thank you, Jackson, for acknowledging that.
You know, Bill will turn a phrase around to his advantage in any way. If you haven't done the cover slingers, he is the master at doing that, you know. So,
all right.
All right.
Let's get started.
Let's get started. So, look, beautiful cover here. This is at this point, I believe Craig is taking over the art duties. Galassi is now out. And Zek is about to come in, but there was kind of a transitional part here with
right. Right. There was a few issues between the two.
Right. Not my favorite art there. It was a little too dark for me, but not terrible either. But you know,
no, and it was good to see some different interpretations on the different characters that aren't Galassi or Zek.
Correct. I agree with that. And here we have the return of Skull Crusher and Pavane.
Right.
And what was this guy's name? Kogar or something like that?
Kogar was the pirate.
Pirate, right.
Yes, there was the smuggler. Yes.
Right. And kind of an involved story here with, you know, that's the thing about Master Kung Fu, Bill. I think we both agree with this, right? That the stories, they're very involved. I mean, if you've read the old pulps and detective novels, and the movie serials, they kind of have that vibe about them. I mean, and James Bond movies, nothing is as it seems. You know, there's crosses, double crosses, triple crosses, misdirection. And this is like one of those, right?
Yeah,
and
they're very immersive.
Very correct.
No doubt.
And I think this is the one that we were talking about last time, Juliet, I think her name is.
Yes, it is Juliet. She worked at the Jade Peacock. And she used to be an agent for MI6. Became a love interest of Shang-Chi.
Shang-Chi, the cat.
Yeah, the cat. And ultimately, she was sort of working for an intelligence organization on her own where she was stealing from Kogar. And that's what ultimately led to Shang-Chi's showdown with the cat first, and then gosh, what's his name? Help me out here. What's that guy's name? I forgot already. The one where Juliet surprised, where she interrupted the ending.
Skull Crusher.
Skull Crusher. There you go.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey,
there was an ultimate showdown between Shang-Chi and Skull Crusher, and there was a revelation made at the end.
Correct. We're not going to give away like a
no, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah. But again, there's Juliet was a love interest or possible
sort of a love interest of Shang-Chi as well.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
You know.
I'd say more of a tryst than an actual love interest, but still.
But again, nothing is as it seems, right? And of course, at this point, he was involved with Lee Ko Woo, and you know we'll get into how more stuff that way. But again, a really good like 4 or 5 issue arc here. Again, immersive. You have to read and you have to remember what goes on before. Otherwise, you know, it can get a little bit complicated.
Most of the stories were 2, usually 3 or 4, sometimes up to 6 issue arcs. So it does, I'd say the biggest challenge for jumping on to the Master of Kung Fu is picking a point other than the very beginning to jump on, because you will probably be in the middle of an arc. And if you're okay with that, or at least going back a couple issues to begin that arc and then moving forward, then that's fine. Otherwise, it could be a little bit disjointed.
Yeah, agreed. Love Triangle, actually,
there were plenty of them.
Because there were multiple branches of that little love interest there, but we won't get into that right now because otherwise we'll do it forever. This is one of my favorite covers, Bill. Bruce Lee-esque here.
Yes, personified.
Galassi was still doing the covers here at this point. Maybe he had done it from before. I'm not sure, how far advanced they do it. But that's one thing about the Master of Kung Fu, that the covers, for the most part, and this is something that on Grader's Notes I have a bugaboo about, were related to the inside. They weren't just poses. They weren't just something that because it was
entice you.
Right.
Yeah. They were nearly always related to something that happened either in the issue, or they didn't relate to something that didn't happen in the issue.
Yeah.
So it could be just a generic pose or action shot, but it didn't suggest something that wasn't in the issue.
Correct.
Yeah. Oh, Bub's misbehaving again. What is that, like 15 seconds in?
Yeah.
And he's already misbehaving?
His wit is legendary. And here's a part where, again, he encounters the cat, because, again, it's very complicated, but the cat thought that he was the one who set the wheels in motion to kill his brother, but then he finds out that's not the case.
Right. And that's the prelude to Kogar appearing on the scene.
Correct. Right. And that's that. And again, things are not as it seems. That was kind of very James Bond-esque thing, where it seems like they were stopping him from drug running, but it was actually a much more malevolent and more of a higher end game thing.
Right. And it was super exciting, as most of the issues are. I love that intrigue. And as we alluded to in the past stream, Clive Reston was allegedly the son of James Bond.
Right.
And I think he was like the great grand nephew or something of Sherlock Holmes as well. So yeah, there was definitely a lot of that intrigue boiled into the stories, which made it fun.
Right. And speaking of, looking deeper into the subtext, if you read these and a little bit of the novels and the pulps where Fu Manchu was in, you see all kinds of little Easter eggs there. When they're referencing things, and like Reston in one of these, he says, "Oh no, it was Tar. It was Tar." He says, "Well, you only live twice," which is the title of the James Bond movie, and there are many references like that, which are
another thing. Not to get too off topic, I've never seen a James Bond movie either.
Oh no! Wow.
I've never been much for TV or movies. So yeah.
I mean, I'm not much for TV, but I did watch a lot of movies in my youth. Now this one is, I know, one that you're going to want to comment on, because we talked about before Blackjack Tar and his lack of love interests.
Right.
Where everybody else was shacking up with somebody.
Right.
Right. But Blackjack Tar was kind of, we didn't, other than, the little bit of history we got with, he was in the military and all that. But here we find out that he indeed was involved with a lady way back when.
Right. So they alluded to a previous love interest, which was a means to draw him into is that the Murder Mansion one?
That's correct.
Yeah. Draw him into a place of his previous dwelling to, along with Shang-Chi, face a series of traps that were ultimately designed to lead to their demise.
That's right. And he finds out that he thought she was dead or something, and she actually is alive, but not exactly who she thinks. She's not exactly who she thought he was. He thought she was.
Correct. Easy for you to say.
Pronouns in there. Sorry.
Yes. Correct. And so there was no subsequent resumption of their affair. So yes, you're right. Aside from that one time, they almost scripted him as an asexual individual.
Yeah, he was there. There were a few other maybe moments with like Mandy Grayville later on, but
no, I think the issues with Mandy were, well, I mean, Mandy ultimately tried to kill him.
Yeah.
Right. And he saved her on more than one occasion, but it was almost
turned the man on except a woman trying to kill you.
Right. It was almost paternalistic in their relationship.
I mean, it was just, sometimes they were just very close together. So I just kind of, maybe there was something there, but
I think I wanted something to happen. I wanted them to explore his character, because I think that's so silly to box him in when everyone else is being dealt with so liberally. But that's the direction they decided to go.
Right. I agree. I wish they would have delved into that a little more. Hey, BTC Moon Guy, great to have you here again. Forward to hearing the opinion on Jean Day. Well, I agree with you. Very underrated. At this point, I think Mike Zeck is full bore, and Jean Day is either starting to ink him or about to start inking. And to me, Zeck and Day on inks was spectacular.
Absolutely
spectacular stuff.
Speaking of spectacular, isn't that an amazing cover?
Look at that, man.
Golly.
The yin yang and the puzzle pieces, and this is sort of symbolic of what's going on in here, because isn't this when he and Lee Ko Woo start have a day together, and and they're trying to figure out how their relationship is going to work, and
it works on several levels, because metaphorically they're trying to figure out how they can fit together as a couple, and on a superficial level, in their downtime, they're also working on puzzles.
Yeah, that's right.
That's one of the activities.
They're working in her apartment there. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
So really clever stuff in this series, Bill. You know that. I mean, that's why I really like this, because it's a challenging series to me. That you read it, and then you're like at one level. I think we discussed this before, and then you reread it, and there's a whole nother layer that you can, if you can punch through it, is very, very interesting and very, very, to me, eye-opening, right? Because it has to expand. You have to expand your way of reading a comic in this series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think you can appreciate it along several different avenues. And aside from Shang-Chi, who I think probably experienced the greatest growth throughout the series, I think Leiko could be right up there with him. As far as how she, I mean, initially her name in Japanese means arrogant, Leiko. So, and that's how she was portrayed initially. Very, very arrogant, very dismissive of Shang-Chi and anyone else who was interfering with her mission. And I think she kind of evolved and grew as he did as the series went on. Maybe not necessarily in some areas for the better, but grew nonetheless.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. There was one other thing. Okay, remember, Doug Monk is still writing the series and did all the way through, except I think one or two issues that were kind of like fill-ins. Let's see if we remember those, Bill. But
it was very, very evident that they were fill-ins. One was like a soul-searching one, and another one was right in the middle of a 2-issue arc. So you definitely knew that was a fill-in issue.
Yeah. I just want to say hi to Stay Puff. How you doing, Sean? Great to have you here, buddy. And Ruben Guzman, Kawabanga fam. If you haven't seen that in your videos, then there's something wrong. This man is in every video he comments that.
He is. He's wonderful.
He is fabulous. And we appreciate you very much, Ruben, for coming by. All right. So here we start another story.
Oh, Gray Man's in as well. Hey, Gray Man. Good to see you.
I think I said hi to him, didn't I?
Oh, okay.
If I didn't, I'm sorry. Gray Man, of course, our host on Cover Slingers, and one of the best out there for sure.
I think we're led to believe, Gray Man, that Tar was a confirmed bachelor.
Yeah. I mean, because I'm not going to get too much detail, but after that story, he was already heartbroken. But after that, I don't think he would want to start another relationship, because he just essentially died inside. So
he did, and I think that if he did, that was way down on his list of priorities, and probably not something that would ever work its way up to the top of the list.
Yeah. I don't know what happened after the Bronze Age. Maybe he did get into a relationship, but
I don't either, quite honestly.
Throughout this series, no, he was pretty much just focused on the missions. Okay, so here here we get this guy back again, Shockwave,
right?
Who was Lancaster? I forget what his name. Smith, was it Lancaster Smith?
Yes, yeah, he was the.
Is he the
nephew of Nayland Smith?
Nayland Smith, right.
So he was a former MI6 agent that went rogue and a little bit crackers upstairs. And he was up and even at this point, probably up until Zoran, the weapons master, he was probably Shang-Chi's most formidable foe.
Yeah, because Shang-Chi couldn't touch him.
Right.
He would get shocked.
Right. Right.
So yeah, and here starts the another pretty semi-involved story arc with he supposedly is now working for MI6 here. And again, there's layers upon layers of deception here, so you're not really sure what's going on.
Right. Or if it's a faction within MI6, yes.
Right. I think that is a faction, actually, now that I remember that. And then
it was correct. That's what led Follow Sweet to be able to move in, clear them out, and get a high-ranking position within MI6.
Right. Again, all that we're telling you could be temporary, because the next issue things can turn on their heads, right?
Yeah.
But here, Brynocki, which was one of the creations by Mordello, right?
Yeah.
Is also partnered with Shockwave.
Correct.
And there's a parallel story, like Bill was referencing, about the MI6 faction trying to extract information from Nayland Smith and those people, and you get the first hints that they think Fu Manchu is still around.
Right.
But they don't give any details of this. They're trying to, that faction is thinking that Smith knows something, which is like bizarre, right?
Absolutely.
Smith, if he knew something, he'd do something about it. Anyway.
So yeah, what's interesting with this story arc is that ultimately Brynocki is working with Shockwave, but then they cross one another, and Shockwave has to team up with Shang-Chi and company to fight Brynocki and all of the myriad of automatons on that crazy island.
Yeah. Yeah, because we find out that Mordillo is dead. He's like a skeleton.
Right.
And Brynocki is like still talking to him and stuff, you know. And they like Bill says, we found out that Shockwave is actually quite a very broken and tortured character because of what he went through. He got blown up by a bomb. It's not going to get into too much detail, but trust me, he's like messed up. All right.
Right. You gain empathy for him, and it makes it easier to understand at least a temporary alliance on the island.
Yeah, because essentially, Brynocki just says, "Well, you know, all you humans are not worth anything." So it's like the artificial versus the real humans, and Shockwave says, "Well, you know, I got to help you because otherwise I'm toast." And you know, they managed to escape.
I like Brynocki. He was a pretty cool character. I enjoyed him.
He's not portrayed as totally evil. He's just kind of wacky and
right,
you know.
Right.
But he's not like. I mean, his logic is totally flawed, but he's not like really evil. He's just sort of just a mixed up crazy automaton, as Bill said.
Right, with a touch of fun, and he can do a lot of different things. Very knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Programmed well.
He talks to himself. He'll say like, instead of there was something on my tape instead of on my mind.
Right.
It has some funny parts in here too, but or something. Okay.
Yeah, not like the Rufus T. Hackstabber stuff. I don't like that. He was in 1 or 2 issues.
Yeah, that's later on. Yeah.
But just some light humor that doesn't take you out of the story. That's what I appreciate.
He was more like annoying humor, I'd say.
Yeah.
So what happens here? So here again we have these. This is the start of another story arc, I believe, where the Zoran starts coming in. Right.
So Zoran's the weapons master, and he's quite a handful.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you learn that he creates a history or has a history when he first gets introduced from Out of the Shadows with Follow Sweet, who's the sister of Shang-Chi. And ultimately that relationship leads him down a destructive path, but that's later on.
Yeah. And that's right, Bill. Here we find out this is his first appearance, I think. And
well, technically his first appearance is under Nightfall when Shang-Chi is looking at Fa Lo Sui's headquarters because she believes she's going to meet there.
Oh,
And he's in the shadows. He doesn't actually see him, but that's his first appearance.
That's true. That's true. I forgot about that. But we don't learn that until later on. But yeah,
right.
Yeah. And again, this is one of those. I don't know. This is almost like a Mission Impossible kind of.
Another series of movies I never saw.
Yeah, it's like
but I know of them. Yes, it does have that flavor.
There's this tape, that they both want, and it's like rolling around everywhere, and they're catching it before it falls, and
a great sequence. Trying to get that tape. That tape had a confession from Fa Lo Sui on it. That's why they were so adamant to get it from Shang-Chi, and Leiko was with him in that for some of that. That's why the weapons master was so eager to get it.
Right.
So those two competing interests.
Retrieve it, right? And,
Yep.
And it, again, great sort of sequence there.
Right. Leiko's in the car right there.
Oh, yeah, right. She's down there riding on the road, and she's shooting at him and the whole bit. Right.
Right.
And I kind of equate this guy to maybe like a lower level Bullseye.
That's not bad. Yeah.
He's very accurate, but Shang-Chi is so his reflexes are so amazing that he can sort of avoid most things. Oh, he gets hit here or there, but not mortally.
Right. I think it's the ultimate test of, or vindication, if you will, of Shang-Chi's philosophy of using your body as a weapon versus your reliance upon external weapons.
Right.
Because it's really him with no weapons nearly always against a guy who's a master of a myriad of weapons.
Yeah, they have a diametrically opposed philosophy and methods. And again, that's another layer we can get into here. But but again, he is. I don't know if he is being manipulated by Fa Lo Sui, or
at least a little bit. Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah. But he's actually a Brit. He's a UK guy. He's not one of the C-fan.
Correct.
But later on,
the Golden Daggers or the Orient Expediters or any of the other groups that
we'll talk about all the different sects later on.
Right.
Now, remember, at this point, we're not sure about Fu Manchu. Obviously, there's hints coming out here, right? But at this point, we're not sure if Fu Manchu is still around, right?
And by the way, Bob, if you're still there, Roger said we'll talk about the different sects. SECTS, not what you're thinking. Just want to be clear about that.
Thanks, Cookie. Thank you for coming by, buddy. Appreciate it. Okay, let's keep going here. So, no, this one. Here we go. All right. I know, again, now we're starting. I think these are starting to be now Zek covers.
Mm-hmm.
And look at the sweat and sort of like the shadowing here. We got Lee Ko-woo, who was I think she was hit in the head, concussed. So Shang-Chi is now kind of protecting her as Zoran is trying to get him, and a bunch of other henchmen, again, the whole tape thing is still going on. And in the background, we have Blackjack Tar, who now found Nayland Smith, Reston, and was it Melissa Grayville?
Yes, it was Melissa Greville. Yeah, she was the secretary for Nayland.
Greville, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're about to be killed supposedly by that guy who from MI6, because why, I don't know, because they want information out of them.
Right.
Yeah, but I guess the jig is up and they have to get rid of them because now they know that something's up.
Exactly.
And then we find out this new sect that is around called the what are they called? The leopard.
They had the leopard men. They had the jaguar men.
Jaguar men.
Yeah, both from South America.
Fanigars or whatever. So anyway,
but those are the leopard men, I believe.
These are the leopard men, right?
Yeah.
And there's a good scene where it's kind of a cliffhanger, like those serial cliffhangers, where you have a bunch of them on one bank of a river, and behind them are all these crocodiles, and we have Blackjack Tar and Fu Manchu there, and then it goes to the next issue, and they're like, "How do we get out of this?"
All right.
That was really cool how they did it. They take the alligator and they Anyway, I won't get into too much detail. The crocodile. Really cool issue here. I think this is the one where it happens. I think.
It is, yes, because they went on that separate mission by themselves.
Right.
And that's where they encountered the leopard men, yes.
Right. And again, Fa Lu Sui and Blackjack Tar, they have their run-ins, and she tries her little womanly wiles on him. and that goes on throughout here, really cool little stuff that goes on, because and Blackjack is like, I'm not going to fall for your thing, and then he's like, ooh.
Yeah. Fa Lu Sui could essentially, through her eyes, through her gaze, and through her kiss, she could bend a man to her will, and that was done time and again, including Nayland Smith, including Zoran, the weapons master, and including to a lesser extent Blackjack Tar. And just to get back to tidy up, Melissa Greville was the secretary for Nayland Smith when he was with MI6, and then moved with him to freelance restorations at Stormhaven when they formed their own private company. And she became a love interest of Clive Reston, and she went on some adventures and missions with him, ended up getting shot, kind of got out of the espionage action portion of the business after that.
Yeah. I want to say I had a few guys come in here. Night Tiger, my buddy Mike from Ocala. Tim, the comic collector, one of my favorite dudes on
What's
here.
up, Tim?
And there was somebody else I saw down here. Who was it? Bub. Thanks for that, Bill. I get easily confused.
He does.
Yeah, well, we know about that. But thank you all for being here.
The doctor said to encourage him when he gets things right, though.
Okay, all right, there you go. That's always a good thing, Just pat on the head, that's a good boy, Now, somewhere around here, okay, yeah. Another thing that's happened here is that there are other characters. Again, there's like all kinds of weird stuff going on here. Like we have this one guy on his deathbed. He says like these words, that have no meaning whatsoever. Like Kinnabala 33, bird flowers or something. And he
Omaha. Hi.
Omaha, yeah. And Reston is like, what does that mean?
Right.
He goes, only guy he'll know is Nayland Smith because he doesn't trust anybody.
Right.
So again, you get those kind of, James Bondian,
Right. Some issues are very strong in espionage.
Yeah. And oh man, are they strong? And later on we get into the international espionage stuff.
Right.
But really cool stuff, though. I mean, I just so enjoyed it. But at this point, it's clear that Fu Manchu is out there. They, and well, I won't get too far ahead because in the next issue, kaboom! Let me get rid of Bud.
Yeah, and we'll just say that ultimately, Nayland Smith verifies that it is true.
Yeah,
because everyone kind of had questions and suspected it, but he ultimately said, "Yes, it's true. I'm convinced of it."
Yeah. Hi, Shannon. How you doing? That's my buddy Shannon. A great collector as well. So here, another fabulous cover here, Bill. One of my favorites.
Absolutely.
I mean, man. I mean, you look at this is Zek, of course. I'm classic Zek stuff. Look at the fire from that brazier and the way the shadows looms on Fu Manchu and that serpent. And
right, he's able to bring the forefront, keep the back in the back, but still highlight both of them.
Yeah, isn't it amazing? What a talent that is, right? I'm not an artist, but boy, I mean, this is just conceptually just a magnificent cover. And then we find out that Fu Manchu did indeed survive that moon blowing, the space station blowing up, I guess. He was in an escape pod.
Correct. He jettisoned away prior to the station blowing up.
Right. Hey, Robert, how you doing, buddy? Welcome. Great to see you here. Great show every Saturday at midnight, which I never catch because I'm old and I'm asleep. But I do catch it on the rewind here and there. And he ends up in South America, I want to say.
Correct. Yes.
And he's building. He's got another plot up his sleeve, of course, and he's now built different sex, which I think you SECTS, Bob. Right?
Yes, it's the Order of the Golden Circle, I think.
Right, that's one of them.
It's I think it's a conglomeration of several different groups.
Yeah.
The Jaguar Men, the Leopard Men.
Those the
I'm sure there were others too.
Those Brazilian guys, the real strong ones like Maru.
Right.
I forgot what all the names were, but he's got a veritable army of people down there. So
he does
something, big.
Yep. Heavily armed, and he's got a fortress built down there.
Right. Oh, here's the one with the there it is. Crocodiles and and they start naming the chapters like kind of symbolic stuff. Like here is the bull and the dragon. Obviously, the bull is Jack Tar and the dragon, and they'll have like every issue was like focused on couples.
Right.
Again, really clever stuff here. But I love the scene there when and then he goes. This is the one where he says, "Oh well, you only live twice,"
Right.
Under there.
Fantastic one.
Good stuff. And again, this is where I think Lee Ko-woo and Rustin team up, right?
There we go.
And this is where should I give this up, Bill? They have a moment.
Yeah, you can set up. Yeah, they relapse. They have a relational relapse.
Yeah, they have a moment. There's lots of pressure,
and it subsequently causes a lot more tension between Clive and Shang-Chi.
Absolutely, buddy. You're one of my favorites. Even if I'm called Rig, you're still one of my favorites. No problem. Yeah, we generally do. I do a lot of live streams with Shannon, and we might have one coming up in December. I'll get to you back on that, Shannon. And there's also a character here. This is I think most of this happens in Morocco now. They fly to Morocco, and there's a character here who bears a big resemblance to a certain actor from way back when. Right,
Groucho.
No, not the Groucho. That's a cab driver or something later. This is the guy from my gosh. Oh. The guy from Morocco. Oh my gosh. Oh, my memory is going, man. Bogart.
Oh, Humphrey Bogart. When they were in Morocco, I remember, wasn't that? I thought Hackstabber was with them for that Moroccan trip.
I don't know, but maybe he was. But there was a guy in a white tuxedo, and he kept calling everybody kid. Like, here's looking at you, kid. That kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, he was in there. He was the one who helped them out. He was the one who shot those leopard guys in the window when Lee Ko-woo and Rustin were, talking.
I remember that part.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that was Bogey. So again, they're bringing in all kinds of little Easter eggs here. Another great little cover here with Shang-Chi, very focused. Shang-Chi here, I mean, he kind of like loses it a little bit. Once he finds out that that comes later on, but he kind of loses it a little bit here, and he gets very, very upset. Now, with the when he met Skull Crusher back in that other arc, initially he wanted to kill him.
He did.
Yeah,
and he may have had Juliet not intervened.
Not intervened, right? So he's kind of like, they're exploring different, because he's a pacifist, and later on that comes to light for sure. But he even himself says, you know what, I don't know if my spirit is really rising here and really enlightening. So he's having some doubts here about himself, and here we got this great fight amongst the ladies, great sword fight between Lee Ko-woo and Fa Lu Sui. Because, well, I'm not going to get into too much detail. Right. And then we have Zoran here. Again, this is like, I don't know, was he drugged or something? There was a part there where he was like, he said he wants to sleep, and it was a weird little part there. It looked
I
like
don't remember if he was drugged or not.
Yes, if something was happening, I don't know if it was drugged or if he was just, because of his doubts, he was just really just not concentrating.
Yeah, I think it's the latter, not so much the former. I think he knew, but I think he knew at this point that a battle with Shang-Chi was probably not one that he could win, but he felt compelled to do so because of Follow Sui.
Right. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And here again, that we find out the plot of Fu Manchu here is kind of like the Manchurian Candidate kind of plot here. And he's got like all these people in political and powerful places that he implanted these mind control devices in. And
I remember this one.
Right.
This was a particularly tough challenge for Shang-Chi, and he needed some help defeating this guy.
Yeah, because what happened is that they could turn off all his nerve impulses. In other words, he didn't feel any pain.
He could take almost immeasurable punishment and still keep going.
And this guy was huge, absolutely massive.
Yep.
And so, Shang-Chi just kept pummeling him and nothing,
Right. And so, yes, his demise is closely associated with their location on the cover of that comic book.
Yeah, they're on the World Trade Center, so you can fill in the blanks there. Okay. And then finally, and there's a part where Blackjack and Nayland Smith are behind the scenes trying to because it was like a satellite that sent the signals down, so they're trying to blow that up.
Right.
Again, very Bond-esque stuff here.
Yep.
And then here, finally, Shang-Chi confronts his father, and he actually tries to talk to him. He's like, "Hey, listen."
I think Nayland Smith and Clive Reston were working on a bomb, trying to defuse a bomb.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, it would blow up like a huge section, including them. And ultimately, they're running out of time. They were just like, we got a 50-50 chance on whether this one works or not.
That's right. You're right, because it was Shang-Chi who destroyed the mechanism in this ship that.
Right.
You're right. You're right. Man, it's been a long time since I read this, buddy.
No, I understand.
But he tries to talk to his father, and his father. This is interesting, Bill. What do you think about this? Fu Manchu calls him former son.
Right.
Right?
Right.
To me, that seems like probably a grave insult, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And
probably foreshadowed something that Shang-Chi would later find out about his current son.
Yep. That's right. That's right.
But yes, it was definitely meant to insult him. At this point, he has Fu Manchu has no misconceptions about Shang-Chi's loyalties and about whether or not ultimately they can repair their relationship. And I think Shang-Chi's making that one last desperate attempt, but he knows in his heart of hearts that he's just going through the motions by offering any olive branch. Yeah.
He I think in his heart, he feels he must do that.
Mm-hmm.
Even though he knows it's probably
it's fruitless.
It's fruitless and a foregone conclusion. But that's just that's how he's his makeup.
Right.
Shannon, the artist at the beginning, Starlin did the first 2 issues. Then Galassi came in and did
the lion's share of
the until issue 60 something. Then Mike Zeck took over. And then around issue 100 and something, Gene Day takes over. So you had big chunks, really, that only 3 artists. Well, Starlin was just a few issues, so I don't know if I count him.
Yeah.
So Galassi to Zeck to Day, I would say.
And Day was the inker for Zeck for so long that it was a pretty smooth transition from him inking to him penciling.
That's right. How you doing, Jason? How you doing, buddy? Great to see you here. Fabulous to see Jason here, one of the best guys here on the community. All right, so once again, they think that Fu Manchu has been dispatched. Okay, this is
Jackson. I haven't seen Casablanca either.
Casablanca.
Sorry.
That's the movie I was thinking about. Yeah. Once again, they think he's been dispatched, but this is like the third time already.
Right. All bets are off at this point.
And even they comment, well, who knows, you know?
Yep.
Yeah. He got blown up in a ship. He could have gone out of there, you know? So
absolutely.
And of course, they were right. But anyway. Let's see, what was that? Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't show the back one. You remember this little story?
I do. That was the two Southeast Asian gangs in Chinatown in America. I think it was the Joy Boys and the Golden Claws.
Yeah.
I think those are the two gangs. I think a Chinese gang and a Japanese gang. They were having a turf war. And Shang-Chi got involved to try to bring some peace to that area.
Yeah, very good. Very well done. He actually agrees to become the leader of the Chinese. Am I showing the right one? No, I'm not showing the right one. Hold on. This one.
Well, yes, he beats the leader in a forced confrontation, and the rest of the gang elects him, much against his will, as their leader. And then he pretends to go about on a robbery mission with them in order to save them from grabbing all this cache of weapons, but gets caught up by the police. And ultimately, his Leiko's brother had to get him out, right? And he ends up getting shot in the end of either that issue or the next issue.
I think the next one, right here.
In an attempt to bridge a peace between the two sides.
Yeah, I like the scene where he's arrested, you know, and they're fingerprinting him, you know, and he's like, and he's resisting arrest. He goes, I did not resist arrest. I shrugged my shoulders.
Right.
So
he was right. He didn't resist arrest.
He was just there, you know. He's just like, he's just so solid, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, kind of a morality play here. You know, where when the two gangs are facing each other, he sort of tries to model that's not the only option, you know.
Right.
There's the one guy is not buying it, but the others say, you know, can see that this will lead to both their ends, and kind of a cool little story here.
It was, yeah.
All right. I hate these things up here. Yeah, I mean the bike and all this.
Hey, if you got that 2500, you wouldn't hate it so much.
Well, you know, yeah. But did you have to cut this out? No, I guess you didn't. Details inside. Okay. Because there was a DC one, you had to cut this out to get the Superman belt buckle.
Oh, that's
that story. All right. That's another tragedy in my life.
I bet.
And it didn't even get the belt buckle.
That and the Marvel stamps, right?
And the Marvel stamps. Yeah. Well, you know, I could do a whole series on that. So again, now
is that Shadow Stalker or
yeah, whatever. Yeah, no, Shadow Stalker is later on.
Okay.
Yeah, am I in the right one? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, this is they're in New York and they've made up after the you know, issue they had with Rustin.
The Dalliance, right?
Yeah, and Shang-Chi clocked them, you know, one.
He did.
Which was totally outside his character.
It was out of character, but I think that, and I think he felt bad about it later, but I think for the time being, it's probably something he felt he needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, hey, if you knew I was with her, why did you give that into that? What's this Shadow Stalker? Hold on, maybe you're right.
I don't know. I might be. They're probably alluding to a villain that they had faced previously, and I was looking too much into the shadow part.
That guy they found down in the sewers. Yeah, this is the guy they fought down in the sewers, and that it's like a gorilla kind of guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, and he was being controlled by some spy or something. Yeah, I don't have a great memory about this issue, to tell you the truth, Bill. But yeah, but he saves like he was like it was like a family or a neighborhood that was being terrorized by that monster.
Oh, that's right, right. And they thought it was some supernatural creature.
Yeah.
And Shang-Chi's like, come
No.
on, man. He didn't insult them, but he's like, I know that there's something less than supernatural behind this, so let me investigate.
Yeah. There are some later on, like I think the first 50 or so issues, they're more what I would call action, thriller, suspense types, and then later on they get into a lot of intrigue and a lot of layers of spy novels and detective novels,
right?
And even some sci-fi elements here and there. You got those
definitely sci-fi elements, in particular with Dr. Fu Manchu.
Dr. Fu Manchu, yeah, exactly.
He was a brilliant scientist, and he conducted several human-related experiments.
Yeah, I would say, and with results that were sometimes very, very science fiction-y here.
Yes.
This one is this is where we meet the other Greville. What's her name? Mandy or
Mandy? Yes.
Mandy
joined this crazy cult. I think the Dawn of Light or something like that.
Yeah.
And so Leiko and Chi, there may have been others, but I think it was just Leiko and Shang-Chi initially pretended to join this cult to rescue her from it.
Yeah, they put on the robes and the whole bit
and went on a ship to this island where they were headquartered. Right.
They thought she had been kidnapped by the cult, but well, she was. She
was brainwashed, but went willingly after having been brainwashed. Correct.
Yeah. Hey, look, our buddy Slim's in here. How you doing, Sean?
Hey, Sean.
Sorry about that. And then we got this guy, Agent Sin, I guess is how you pronounce his name.
Right.
Let me get him off of there. Which is like he's like totally obsessed, kind of guy. He was, even though he was like really just beat to heck, he wouldn't stop. So
right. Well, I think he's the one that was like, I get him confused. Yeah. Is he the one that was like trained from very early on with his only mission was to defeat the master of Kung Fu? I know there's one that was like that. To beat the best, to be the best, you have to beat the best. I can't remember if it was him.
I think it was later on. I think it was. I know which one issue you're talking about. Yeah, that's later on. Yeah. That's the one with the blind girl, right? That he was protecting her from that guy.
Oh yeah. That's right. Yeah, it is. Yeah. He kept taking pot shots.
Yeah.
At Chi until ultimately they
confronted one. By the way, a great issue that one was.
Yeah, it was.
This guy was he was like he had like this arm had like lasers or something, and later on we find out he's part of a whole unit that had different attachments or whatever. But anyway, hold on. Now I got to go to this file. Right, and here's another one of these guys. Again, wasn't this part of the KGB plot? This was part of the KGB plot, I believe. Again, these stories had so many subplots that it's hard to great, unless you read this recently. But I think these were part of the KGB plot to what was their plot? Man, I forgot now. But anyway, I think notice this guy has like this hand that's like a mace or something.
Right.
Because they had a bunch of agents to try to forestall the freelance restorations from stopping the KGB from whatever their objective, which was I cannot remember now.
Right. The KGB was working with that cult leader.
Yep.
From the Dawn of Light cult, and there was a huge missile. There was some missile that they were working on.
Oh, was that it? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
That was a big missile on that island, and that's ultimately what Leiko and Shang-Chi stumbled upon.
Okay, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And here's your favorite issue where we meet that guy Rufus, the CIA agent guy.
Oh no, yeah, no, that I liked him. That's okay. Rufus Carter.
Oh, you're talking about the you're talking
Rufus
about
Hackstabber was the comedic foil. I thought he was horrible.
Yeah,
this is Midnight Rufus Carter, who was a champion kickboxer / antiques dealer and also an ex-CIA agent. Yeah, I enjoyed those issues with him.
And he like set up he set up a little conflict so that Shang-Chi, Shang-Chi, you get to talk to Shang-Chi, and
Correct.
he involves him in the whole shebang here.
Right. In that particular issue, there was a local gang that was extorting money from the businesses around for protection, much like the mafia or mob does.
Right. Yeah, and Rufus guy is, well, I don't know if that was the time he was injured, but he's like really a bad dude, you know. I mean,
he is, yes, but he also owns an antique store, and that's how he got involved.
Yeah.
Right.
And here we have they go to this like big to do, like a formal dinner or whatever. I don't know if it was at the guy's house or museum or whatever. And there's a funny scene with Lee Ko-woo and that statue. I don't know if you remember. Like she's like, "Hey, do you like the statue or me better?" And he's like, "Well, I think you." And then he goes, "Well, let me pose by the statue." And he goes, "Yeah, the statue actually looks better." And then
I do remember. Yeah, she didn't like that too much. But he could be funny too.
He can be because he's so, he's so straight, that
yeah, exactly. His delivery is everything.
He's so nerdy,
Yeah.
So I thought this was a pretty cool issue. And
I think that's where most of the dinner party were poisoned or paralyzed or something.
Yeah.
Shang-Chi being an exception.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then he they take him out by like attrition, like one at a time.
Right.
And save the day here. Now, this is the one I think where we were talking about with this guy here, who his whole purpose was, he's part of some kind of sect, and they all said, he says, "I'm the best," and he goes, "No, this guy's the best."
Right. So well, the Sci-Fan or the different sects that used to be part of the Sci-Fan or still were under the same umbrella as the the Order of the New Dawn. Some of them don't know Fu Manchu's alive, and they still want to act on his behalf. Some of them do, and so he's constantly harried and harassed throughout the series by these enemies and former adherents to his father's philosophies. And he was one where his whole life was training toward defeating Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
And I think that Mandy Greville, after having her mind cleansed after having been rescued from the cult, she determined that she wanted to start a school for the blind. And initially that was at Stormhaven, but ultimately Melissa and Clive broke up when Mandy said, "Hey, I found this place in the city. My dad will bankroll me." And Melissa said, "I'm going to go help her." And that kind of led to the dissolution of their relationship. But that's where the blind child in this thing came from, in this issue. Shang-Chi had to help take the kid to the
school. Yeah. And this guy just kept attacking him, and Shang-Chi beat the snot out of this guy. I mean,
over and over. Yes.
And he just wouldn't give up. He just wouldn't. At the point where he had to beat him unconscious. I mean, he was literally just a wreck. And he gave him every chance, every single chance, and it just shows you what obsession can do to you. You lose focus. There's so many. He was like, "There's so many other things in life. You could even tell people you beat me. I don't care."
Right.
No, unless I bring your head, they're not going to believe me. So,
plus, they used the issue as a way to highlight Shang-Chi's enhanced senses by paralleling them with the blind girl's enhanced senses of hearing and smell and
she could hear this guy moving when Shang-Chi couldn't in the woods.
Well, in some cases she would tell him, he's like, "Yeah, I heard him too." So they were saying that Shang-Chi has very elevated senses, much like someone who doesn't have sight upon which to rely.
That's right. Good one. And here we have, now we're building up to number 100, which it's kind of an odd issue, but
a seminal issue,
seminal issue. Right here, another beautiful cover in action here, And this is really, as I recall, Bill, there's really 3 or 4 stories. You got an old one where Nayland Smith in the 30s is,
Right.
I think he goes back with Petrie, and they're trying to, it's like, maybe it's an adaptation of one of the novels or something.
Is that the one in the pyramid or the Egyptian tomb?
Yes.
Yeah,
Correct.
I do remember.
Type of stuff. Yeah. And then you have one where Shang-Chi is very young in his training,
Right.
and his father sets up a scenario where this guy was going to kill him, but it really was all set up. And then Fu Manchu comes in to rescue him to sort of show him that he loves him.
Right.
It's setting him up. And then we have a more modern one. So cool issue for sure.
Yep.
But not your regular Shang-Chi issue here. Sort of.
No, and not something that really moves the current story forward.
Yeah. It doesn't really move forward. Yeah. From now on, it kind of moves a little slower until the 120s, but.
Right. I think they were at this point, they were kind of uncertain what new direction they wanted to take.
Yeah.
And then by the time it started moving quicker, they realized that they were actually moving toward an end.
Yeah. I think at this point they started to realize that. We start the Gene Day era here. And again, his art was a little darker, I would say, than Zek. But still, the way that he portrayed the fight scenes were so well done, just impactful,
Jackson Roy Kurt said Death Boat. Now that name could describe CMM.
Death Boat. Death Boat. Here we start with more of notice the Nazi symbol there.
Yep.
We start more into that kind of pulpish kind of story where.
I remember this. This is where. Okay. So this is where, and it might have started with the Death Boat. I don't remember, but this is where in Hong Kong there were a series of junks or barges that were all lashed together in a makeshift, almost floating city, and they were sent. They being, I think, Leiko, Chi, and Tar, to determine why. And I think the cat might have been there, trying to, release or dredge up this Nazi submarine, perhaps, or ship, or something that was part of the cargo, I think.
Yeah. It was some Nazi stuff from way back when that obviously was not going to be good, right?
Right.
Trying to go a little quicker here, Bill, because we're about an hour and so in.
Let's. You talk a little too much, Roger. Let's move this along.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that here. Here's where we get all the different, the iterations of
Razor Fist,
and
yep.
I mean these guys just.
He's still one of my favorites. So ridiculous, but so awesome.
They actually don't have hands. There's not a hand in there.
Right. Right, because they're genetically engineered in some cases that way.
Yeah. And here, he's fighting. Again, one of these guys with these contraptions.
Right.
They're trying to bring up any villain that would be next to impossible to beat. And yet he usually what he does is that he'll wear them down,
Absolutely.
He just wear them down because he's so quick, and he'll
cause whatever mechanism they're relying upon for their attack mode to fail.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And he'll use whatever. I mean, he's so good at that. If there's something around, it could be like there's one where he uses like this stick and he just like pokes it right through this little hole and the thing blows up in the whole bit.
Yep.
But this is a good cover here. Well, that's not the here. This is a cool one. This is the one. Isn't this the one where? Oh man, where he's like fasting that day, and so
so he's extremely weak,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Is that the one where he witnesses a man being murdered?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And he feels compelled to
intervene. Yeah,
to catch the killer. Yeah.
Because it's so weak, this guy gives him a really hard time.
Right. Yeah, he was fasting as part of his spiritual cleansing.
Correct.
But then he wanted to go eat, and he could never get
Never
to
got
eat. Yeah, he can never get there. Yeah.
That again, they have some of those little funny parts, every once in a while here, that I thought were refreshing, honestly.
Right.
And here you got this like motion kind of cover here.
Yeah, it's a great cover.
There is a specific word for this, but I forgot what it was. And again, we got Zoran back over here.
Right.
This guy's, he's like a weed. He just keeps turning up.
Keeps coming back.
Notice the disheveled look there, because he's been like everything in the kitchen sink was thrown at him. Stars and size and everything. And I forgot exactly this is one of those detective kind of stories, as I recall.
Is that when they introduced Dark Angel?
I think you're right. Yeah. Let me take a look.
Who is a KGB defector. And so ultimately, by this time, Follow Sui is already has a high-ranking position in the MI6, which explains Zoran the Weapons Master, because he had a relationship with her until she ultimately spurned him. But she keeps debriefing, or she keeps questioning Dark Angel to get as much information as possible. Yeah. And Clive Reston forms Clive Reston forms a relationship with her.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Yeah. Again, Clive Reston, the man is you got to give him credit, man. He
gets around.
A cadre of women that he.
Yes.
And then what was this guy's name? I forgot. Darn. Wasn't this a KGB guy also?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think he was a KGB also. This was a tie into that previous KGB story, I'm pretty sure.
That's not the one who was trying to kill the queen, is it?
No, I don't. Oh yeah, that's it.
Yeah, he ultimately fought him on like a rainy day.
Yeah, that's it.
Just stopped the assassination attempt, I think.
That's it. You got it. Great, good job there. Good job. Yeah, that's it. Ghostmaker.
Ghostmaker. Okay, that's right.
Yeah, Ghostmaker. Yeah, that was cool. Yeah, I tell you, it's been a long time since I read some of these stories.
Yeah, that was a good one.
I got to reread that one, because that was a good one. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like he just kept fending him off.
Yeah. Yeah, he was a tough one.
He was a tough one. Yeah, he had like all these gadgets, and it was hard to hit him. And here he is again here with, I forgot what this guy was here. He had like some organization behind him as well.
Right.
Really cool cover there, by the way.
It is.
And here we have Commit and Destroy. I love that little blurb there. And notice he's got his nunchucks here, I believe.
Yeah.
So he did carry him around here and there.
He was an expert with them.
Yeah.
As well as other weapons. He just generally didn't use them.
Yeah, any weapon he could use, he just preferred not to. Look at this Dark Panther cover here. This is Team Day, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, right around here we're starting to get. Oh, this is a good story, Bill. You remember this one? The Blind Archer.
Oh, I do remember that one. Right, because this person was determined to kill the husband. No. This is the one where it was an allegorical tale, right?
Yeah, allegorical, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a blind archer, and the sea fan had been hunting them for decades.
Right.
Protecting.
And Shang-Chi interfered to help the archer, and the archer very much disliked that.
Yep.
Ultimately, he was felled, and Shang-Chi, I think, wanted to protect his widow, but I think she committed suicide in order to spend eternity with him. And if she was like royalty, I think she was like royalty or something like that prior to the two having met and wed.
Yeah. Allegorical and very poignant tale here, honestly.
Yeah, very good.
It really surprised me, because it's kind of just thrown in there. But really good stuff here.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going kind of quick because we're getting to me, what really sort of closed the story. Fu Manchu rears his head again. Here we got what was this guy's name? Oh man, my memory is just terrible. Man,
Which one was that?
let me see what his name was. He was cool.
Hey, Mr. Garrow.
Hey, Mr. Garrow, how you doing? Yeah, this is he. At this point, Shang-Chi is like getting really tired of all these games and all these secrets, right?
Oh yeah.
And
I think he's getting tired of being on the side of the slightly lesser of the two evils.
evils, yes, correct. What was this guy's name? He didn't talk, I don't believe.
And it's tough because he has the only paternal relationship he really has is with Nayland Smith now.
Yeah, yeah.
And so it's doubly hurtful when he doesn't get the full truth of everything.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember his name, but let me tell you, he was very tough. He didn't talk, but he almost got him at the end there. So
that Death Dealer, you might be right.
Could be. Again, one of these like very, very. Again, the use of lighting here through this transom or whatever this is here.
Right.
The
lattice or the windows. Right.
Yeah. And I was it Lee Kuo-Wu that rescued him from this guy? I forgot.
I think it was. I'm not sure though.
Pretty sure it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. And then at this point, we know that Fu Manchu is starting to come because now his mutations
are
going up. So apparently he did not die in that spaceship crash. And if you didn't believe me there, you'll believe me here. And there he is.
Yeah.
All right. Double-sized spectacular. Again, rising like the phoenix from the flames.
Right.
He loves those kind of Hollywoodish kind of comparisons.
Yep, he has come back with a vengeance, and he has lab engineered creatures that he's unleashing to do his bidding to at least rid him of his son and hopefully his daughter and MI6.
But I think at this point, was it the building is collapsing, the lab or whatever? And
right. So ultimately, what happens is they find out that he's built up such an immunity to his elixir vitae that to help himself stay young, he needs the blood of a relative. So both Shang-Chi and Follow Sweet, he was trying to harvest their blood, and he succeeded to a certain extent. Yeah. And he had, I guess, created or engineered a clone of Shang-Chi, who was his loyal son that he asked to battle Shang-Chi to the death when he realized that Shang-Chi wouldn't cooperate, wouldn't stay there to, for months to give him blood. And when that failed, Shang-Chi went and destroyed his lab, including all of the blood he had harvested. And we see how incredibly desperate Fu Manchu had become when he's trying to lick the blood off the floor in a last gasp attempt to save his youth.
Yeah, he was turning hundreds of years old.
Correct.
Good to see you. And so, he was the blood that was spilled, he was licking it up like a dog.
Yep. Yep.
I can only imagine how demeaning that must be to Fu Manchu. Very proud.
Right.
But then the whole lab just crashes and he's in there when it,
although they left obviously some way out for later on series, I think if you're reading the initial series, I think you're pretty confident saying that's the end of Fu Manchu, at least for now.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's how they planned it. They knew at this point that the series was going to be either canceled or for certain it was going to be moved into some kind of anthology or something. So they wanted that chapter to end and for him to have some kind of big, send off, which is not really like Shang-Chi really, but they did here. I think Jean Day, this is one of his last issues.
Yeah, so that was again where Rufus Carter garners Shang-Chi's help for a case, a private investigator case that he takes in Scotland, where a guy claims that a ghost had buried treasure, and these toughs are trying to force him to reveal where they're at.
Yeah.
And so he hired Rufus and subsequently Shang-Chi through Rufus as bodyguards.
Yeah, correct. Correct. Yeah, that was a pretty good little story there.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
But here I think Gene Day is definitely off. We got this guy Johnson, I think. I did not like this art at all.
Yeah.
To me, it was just, I don't know. It just didn't work for me. It was very.
It was a big departure from what had been there previously.
Yeah, very, very big departure. It was much more staticky. Hey, Von Strange, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you here. And at this point, you could tell the end was near. Even the stories, even though it was Monk, you could tell that they were just trying to hold on to the end here.
Right.
Sort of having some interludes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they were stretching it out because they wanted to get to 125.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Hey, Freaky Louie, how are you?
Yeah. Everybody check out Freaky Louie every Friday. He gives away a free key. So that's why his name is like that. Freaky Louie. Okay. Don't miss his videos every Friday and sub him up for sure. Okay, so again, and even the covers are really getting lackluster here. They're just going through the motions, and we're at 121. So let's wrap this up. And then here, I'm gonna wrap this up, and then Bill and I will give our impressions here. Essentially, what I said, he is fed up with the crosses and double crosses. Everybody is not what they seem. He feels used. He feels deceived. He even says that the only difference between you and my father is that at least he didn't lie to me.
Right.
After the initial
reveal.
You know, you guys keep telling me stories, and I don't know if I want to believe it or not. I don't want to be in this.
Right. So plus, on top of that, I think he feels in his heart of hearts, truly for the first time, that his father is gone.
Yeah, correct.
I think he always had doubts before.
Correct.
But I think now he can wash his hands of it and say, I know he's gone. I can move on to something different.
I can move on to something else. And so what he does is that this to me was a good ending, right? He doesn't go and look for, no, he goes, he retires, and he becomes a fisherman, because that is the serenity that he is seeking, right? He is not seeking adventure. He is actually running from it. And that's why he gives up on the freelance restorations. Although after this, years later, they bring him back into the fold. But as far as this series goes, this is where it ends right here. Notice that he's walking away from his gi here with the yin and yang symbol. You don't see his face. You just see his back walking away. He walked away from the series and from all the people in his life at this point.
Right.
And that is the end, folks, of this. So let's finish up, Bill, with our impressions of the series. I know that we have kind of different perspectives about how the series evolved and what could have happened in the future. But I'll give you my encapsulation, then I'll give you the floor.
Yeah.
From the very beginning, I think there was a plan that they wanted to do a series like that Kung Fu TV series. Somebody that was introspective, somebody that was a pacifist, but was constantly being put in situations that he had to use violence. And that kind of dichotomy, I think, made this series incredibly interesting. Although he had relapses, and you could tell that he wasn't an automaton. He had emotions. He would lose it here and there, especially when it comes to Lee Ko-woo, you know, where when she had an affair, he went bonkers, you know, essentially, which was so out of character for him. And he fell in love various times and got heartbroken various times. So you can tell that. And his relationship with his father, you know, was a sort of an extreme example about a lot of us in our relationship with our fathers. You know, we want their respect and they want us to succeed, but maybe we don't see eye to eye and what those mean. You know, what maybe for your father, he wanted you to be a doctor and you wanted to be a social worker, you know. And that was kind of like what happened here, you know. Fu Manchu wanted him to essentially to take over his organization, to be, you know, such an incredible fighter and tactician and just be able to do all the things that he could do, but that so that he didn't have to do it. Shang-Chi would do it,
Right.
And obviously when he said, "Listen, I am not evil. I abhor what you are doing," that started the conflict, and that conflict to me was the gist of this series. Shang-Chi was trying to avoid conflict. His father was trying to get revenge for a slight that in his honor he couldn't take, especially from the son that he grew, not grew, but that he groomed from a very young age and then betrayed him. So to me, once you're welcome, BTC. Thank you for being here. We'll finish up real quick. To me, when Shang-Chi died, that's when his role kind of died here. He no longer had purpose, because he just wanted to live a life of introspection, right? He didn't really want to have accomplishments or accolades. Okay, he was looking for inner peace, and he only found that, like you said, once Fu Manchu was gone, and he could get himself away from all the different deceiving aspects of his life. You're on the floor, sir.
All right, so I think I agree with most of what you're saying. I do think that there were opportunities, and they took it sometimes, to explore Shang-Chi's true relationship with pacifism. I think it's entirely justifiable to say, if you weren't so highly trained in martial arts, would you so quickly resort to violence when put within situations that seem to make sense to resort to violence? I think that's something that he struggled with sometimes, and that they could have explored more. I think you could say, for a true pacifist, right? Like you would see oftentimes in different films, a church leader or a monk or someone like that who's capable of defending themselves take the abuse because they truly don't believe in violence. Right? So they would just be struck, killed, whatever. He would resort to violence to protect himself. How quickly he came to that conclusion to resort to violence, I think, is what could be debatable as far as whether or not he truly was as pacifist as he could have been. So I think that's an interesting part to take a look at. And I think that he probably ultimately realized he bears some responsibility for that violence.
Agreed.
I think that Dr. Fu Manchu was the father that spurned him to action, to social action, to help fight evil in the world. I think that Nayland Smith was the surrogate father that broke him. I think his lies and deceits were probably more damaging than anything that Fu Manchu had done to him previously. And that's really what set him on his journey to put the whole of the Western world behind him, including, at that point, he still had a good relationship with Leiko, but everyone was, he walked away from everyone and everything. I do think that Fu Manchu was initially, I think he was important to the series because they had always planned it, him being important to the series. I think they had planned out most of the big sequences of this series, maybe in the very beginning, if not, I think, toward the beginning. I don't know that that had to be the case, but I think they kept working towards that meter, that rhythm. So I think there were plenty of opportunities demonstrated with several issues where they could have taken a whole James Bond type or spy type bent to it and just stayed in that world. He could have still fought evil. I understand that he knew he couldn't fight every evil, but he knew he couldn't do it with the gangs either. But still, he stepped in. So there would still be several opportunities. You could say that they hit home personally, where he would feel compelled to intervene and try to bring some justice to that little segment of the world. I think that still could have worked because they fleshed out the supporting cast so incredibly well. And ultimately, they did move that on forward, but they still included Fu Manchu, just retconned with just about any other Sax Rohmer character, with the exception of Nayland Smith. I don't think he was in some of the subsequent series, at least the first couple. He was omitted.
I don't recall. I know Blackjack Tar is a Marvel property. He was created.
Yeah, he was. So yeah. He was. Reston was. Everyone but Petrie, Nayland, Follow Sweet, and Fu Manchu were Marvel properties. But I think they retconned those three, but they didn't retcon, at least as far as I knew in the first subsequent series, they didn't retcon Nayland Smith. They just left him out completely. I don't know why. I didn't really read too much of those, but that seemed to be the case.
Yeah. Great analysis, Bill. Great stuff. Great stuff. So I'm going to end it here. I did leave the part 1 link below. So if you're coming into part 2 and you want more of these musings of ours, go ahead and hit that part 1. Remember to sub up Bill. His link is below. Thank you to this great chat for sticking with us for this hour and a half. I wanted to make this about an hour and 15 minutes, but you know, when we were passionate about stuff, we start having, you know, this kind of we have trouble timing ourselves, shall we say?
Absolutely. An hour and a half's good, though. I think that's good.
Hour and a half good, yeah. But you know, and there was a lot to cover. We went through that last 30 issues like
yeah, we did. You know, like gangbusters.
Like gangbusters. So thank you, Bill, again for hanging with me. Thank you for your great analysis, and most of all, because you know you were one of the few who have read this series recently and had.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure and an honor. Really enjoyed it.
It was for me as well. And again, thank you to the chat and the community. I'm going to have an unboxing later on with Comic Books NYC and Man Cave. So if you're interested in that, join me in a couple hours. It's going to be a quickie, but I'd love to see all of you there. All right, everybody. Take care out there. Be kind to each other. Be blessed and be back.